Welcome, everybody. Joe Quills here with you. It's a Thursday night and time to get you ready for the weekend. Thursday night show here, and we're going to have some fun here tonight. And hopefully, I don't think this is going to be a long show. I do have a few topics here that I do want to talk about here, and we'll see. We'll see where we get. Um, it's just I was sitting here today, and I was like, every once in a while you get those days where you just don't feel like you're really into it. Like you're only 69% of the way interested in it. And sometimes you just have one of those days and whatever. Not saying that's a bad thing. You're always going to have your ups and downs no matter what it is. And, we'll see we'll see what we do here. When I do when I have the schedule posted on Twitch, twitch.tv/Joe Quills, that's where you should be subscribing. Even though we do have it in the Bleachers YouTube, my YouTube, and on the Bleacher Brothers X. Um, I'll tell you right now that it. Um, sometimes you got to fight through everything. It's not a bad thing. Everybody has ups and downs, and you just make the best of what you have, and just wasn't really that prepared for tonight, um, and the thing is, I'm always going to be upfront with you guys, so just want to let you know that we're not going to have a long show, but when you see when you see my schedule on Twitch, it says 9 to 11. Um, and I updated the schedule for the summer um, since I'm going to be taking the summer off on Wednesday nights. I think we're going to bring Wednesdays back on August 27th. That is a tentative date right now. We'll it's wait and see, but and who knows? Maybe we'll have a Wednesday. We have a surprise episode. Uh, you know, I still have that capability of adding shows if I want to. So, but follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Joe Quills. That's the best way because if you have the Twitch app, you'll at the very least get the alert that I'm on. So, if you're a person that prefers X over Twitch, hey, I'm not going to stop you. That's why we stream there. If you like YouTube, we have two options for you. We have my YouTube at Joe Quills or at In the Bleachers, the Bleacher Brothers Network YouTube channel 2, or as I like to call it, our ESPN 2 network. Um, so we'll see. Um, we'll see how this goes tonight, and I don't think it's going to be long. But a lot of times when I start talking, next thing you know, it's a 2.5 hour show. So we'll see what happens here. Um, hope everybody had a great night out there, great day. We're one day closer to weekend. Weekend is going to be pretty busy for me. Um, you know, Want to get some things done around the apartment, which I haven't been able to get done. Um, but probably would have been done if I didn't go down to Florida last week. But I'm not complaining about that because I got to get away. And got to see Gulfstream Park. Got to wander around this time. Last time I was stuck on the second floor. Um, we you really had some fun with that, as we all know from when me and Mike were talking on Monday night. Um, but yeah, I'll also tell you about also eligible on Saturday as well. Um, anyways, let's get to it here. First story that I have is not a sports story. Now, granted, 90% of the show on Monday was not a 90% of that show was not a Um, it wasn't a sports stream because we were talking about the trip, or talking about this, or talking about that. We were just vibing about different things. So, um, but today, everybody was joking around, even with the conclave beginning yesterday. Um, you know, after the Pope had died, Pope Francis, everybody was joking around with, you know, Shador Sanders is not going to be the Pope. The Philly Fanatic's not going to be the Pope. Stone Cold Steve Austin's not going to be the Pope. I saw that one. But, and we all saw the Donald Trump one, whatever. We're not going to talk politics here. But we do have a new Pope. And I think it was I think it was a bit of a surprise because Cardinal Robert Prevost, who was born in Chicago, and I found out from the Wikipedia stuff because I went on a Wikipedia, uh, went into a Wikipedia hole while I was working today. Don't tell my boss. But between calls, and the calls were a little slow, so I ended up looking. I was like, well, let me see something here. So, because um, Cardinal Prevost, however you pronounce it, thankfully he picked an easy papal name to pronounce, Pope Leo the 14th. Now I was hoping for Pope Motherfucker, but uh, but seriously, find out. Not only did he was he born in the United States in Chicago, he also had a spent his undergraduate studies at Villanova University, right outside the city of Philadelphia. So everybody's joking around with different things. I don't know who was the first to say this. I first saw it from Annie Agar today. She had said I think she said it on X at first, and then she made a picture of it and whatever. Um, Let me find it here. And this is definitely something that I would imagine that any Agar would say. And whether it was her that said this first or not, we'll never know. Um, she said, Chicago produced a Pope before a quarterback who throws for 4,000 yards. Now, granted, she's a Green Bay fan, but, you know, but she's not wrong because Chicago's never had a 4,000-yard passer. And I think their touchdown record is 29, I believe. So, but then again, you're playing in one of the toughest atmospheres to play in because it's so damn cold there half the time. And also, it also didn't help that they had quarterbacks that couldn't do shit. But, but pretty interesting that a pope from America, and not only born in Chicago, but did his undergraduate work in mathematics at Villanova University. Um, so the plumes of white smoke appear from the Sistine Chapel around 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Philly time. It signaled the election of the first U.S.-born pope. Um, Cardinal Robert F. Provost will become Pope Leo the 14th, making him the first Augustinian to become pope. Um, his election drew congratulatory notes from world leaders, including Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, the evil duo. Um, for those who knew him as in the Augustinian community, he was Bob, someone they had dined with, was comfortable talking about baseball, soccer, Trump, a really good person, a prayerful person, and with a well cultivated sense of humor. So I don't know how much of his personality will be shown, especially in public, but I'm sure behind the scenes he's going to probably be the same person. Um, so it's the first pope named Leo since 1903. Pope Leo XIII championed social justice and workers' rights in the influential encyclical Rerum Novarum. Uh, he graduated from Villanova in 1977, later became a citizen of Peru, where he spent most of his ministerial career. Succeeding Francis, an Argentine, he would become the second pope from South America. So South America can claim him, Peru can claim him, and also the United States can claim him as well. Um, Francis summoned Prevost to the Vatican in 2023. He became a cardinal that September. So he hasn't been a cardinal that long. He ate lunch with Francis frequently, was in charge of the process for nominating bishops. Uh, Now, the one thing I will say is here, um, I may not be the most devout Catholic. Matter of fact, I'm a non practicing one. Um, but the one thing I will say is that when you look at this, you know, it's just interesting that this happened. And, I'm always interested in the inner workings of something like this. Even if you're a non-practicing Catholic like me, or you follow a different religion, I find it pretty interesting that the College of Cardinals, all 100 and however many of them there were, get locked into the Sistine Chapel and they have to decide who's going to be the next pope to lead the Catholic community. So, but I just wanted to bring that up more than anything else. It was just interesting that it was an American, even though South America, from what I just read, can claim him as well. And also you know just something interesting that occurred today. So, and it's a fun little fact that we saw, and history was made today, and it is what it is. So I wanted to mention that, just because I am a bit of a nerd when it comes to little things like that. So um, even if I'm not deeply religious, it's still an interesting thing. And of course, I'm even joking around today saying that the Cardinals pick was in. Somebody posted that originally, and I just ran with it today. So everybody, everybody has had their jokes and everything over the last couple of days. One had him driving on the Schuylkill Expressway or 476, one or the other. So they did that. So you know, everybody's you know, and that's a great thing. As long as it doesn't get offensive, I'm okay with a joke here or there. So, but we do have a new pope, and you know, I think it's worthy of mentioning that today. Um, Now we'll get to our sports stuff, which we usually talk about here. Got the Phillies game on the one TV here in the dining room here, only because I'm keeping my eye on the game right now. Phillies are down 5-4 right now. Um, Minnesota's up 42-22 on Golden State right now. First full game without Steph Curry, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Um, One thing I want to talk about, I didn't make, I didn't really look up an article for this, but the NHL has announced, or at least Utah has announced their new name, and starting next season, They are going to be the Utah Mammoth. Tusks up. Oh, that doesn't sound right, but I guess you got to get used to it. So after, and I pulled up the article now. So I apologize for yelling in there. So after a 13-month process that included trademark drama and more than 850,000 ballots cast by fans in multiple rounds of voting, Utah Mammoth was revealed as the new name and permanent identity of the NHL franchise Wednesday. Unfortunately, it's not my pick of the Utah Storm and Mormons, but it is what it is. So, um, so it replaces the temporary name Utah Hockey Club, which seriously could have broken the mold with how you name teams in North America, at least my opinion. So, I mean, but the reason why they named it that was because it was so late into the process of getting things ready um, for this current season, which is winding down, that they couldn't they couldn't get everything ready to go. So, but so it was a that was the temporary name for the 24-25 season after Smith Entertainment Group purchased and relocated the former Arizona franchise to Salt Lake City. Um, so they went through 4 rounds of community voting, including getting feedback not only on potential names but also on potential logos. Ryan and Ashley Smith said in a statement, "The community chose the Utah Mammoth brand, and it stands as a symbol of who we are and where we came from and the unstoppable force we're building together." So it began selling a limited selection of first run Utah Mammoth merchandise. Um, at the team store inside the Delta Center on Wednesday, a news conference featuring Gary Bettman was also scheduled. Um, Jerseys will be available later this offseason. They'll be seen at the draft in June. Utah selections will wear the new sweaters. Um, Utah won the second draft lottery drawing to and received the fourth pick. They moved up from 14 to 4 because they can only go up to 10 spots. Um, uh, the team said in a release, evidence suggests mammoths charged in herds at speeds exceeding 25 miles an hour, comparable to the speeds reached by the fastest skaters in the NHL. Uh, According to the team, Utah chose the singular mammoth rather than the plural mammoths because it symbolizes one team all in all of Utah. Okay. The head of the mammoth with the curved tusk features several Easter eggs for fans. Uh, you have the snow capped mountains of the Wasatch uh, on top of the mammoth's head. A silhouette of Utah and a negative space M are hidden in the left side of the logo. Um, The curved tusk is meant to evoke the letter U for Utah. Tusks Up is the team endorsed rallying cry. Um, they'll have the Mammoth logo on home jerseys and the state's name on away jerseys. Um, so they'll join the Hurricanes as the only team currently wearing a logo on one jersey and a word mark on the other. Um, so it's fascinating. Um, but it's fascinating what they've done, and personally, I would have preferred the Utah Storm and Mormons. I really would have preferred the Utah Hockey Club only because of the fact that it was you know, it's such a unique name and it brings us back to, even though it sounds like a soccer name, you know, could have broken the mold and also, and there's also a lacrosse team, an indoor lacrosse team called the Colorado Mammoth, and I'm not sure if there's any issues with that or not. So I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, we'll see what happens with all that. So, um, but I'm interested in seeing those new uniforms. And like I always say, does does a professional hockey team or whatever organization, do they care about some hack streamer and podcaster thinks about something like this? Of course not. They don't care what I have to say. But you know, I would have preferred Storm and Mormons. Yeah, it's okay. But you know, uh, breaking news: Ant hurt in second quarter, had to be helped to the locker room. Um, are you talking about Anthony Edwards? I had to pull the box score up because I'm like Ant, because I'm thinking, okay, well, it's going to be a war of attrition in this series apparently because Anthony Edwards. Um, Let me see here. Of course, it's not trending enough on. Okay, so it's an apparent ankle injury. Uh, from what I see here, and this is why I always put on their plan for tonight because I always go off into tangents upon everything else. That does not look good. So we'll see what happens with that in the next however long. So, so some breaking news out of Minnesota, and apparently, so Phillies just tied the game. By the way, 5-5. They came back from 5-1. But one guy who uh, does not have a job anymore is Derek Shelton of the Pittsburgh Pirates because he is the first fired manager of 2025. The Pirates have been mired in a 7-game losing streak. Um, they've fallen 10 games behind the Cubs right now, and um, you know things happen. And when you have some expectations, even though they're not exactly that great of expectations, but you have. I mean, me, I picked the Pirates to win the division this year, but I actually picked them to win last year too. But it just seems like that you got a major league type situation, major league the movie type situation where the owner is trying to get them to lose, except he's not trying to get them to move out of PNC Park. But and the thing is, that they're not going to win either. So, but the announcement was made today. Ben Sherrington, the GM, made the announcement. Don Kelly will take over for Shelton, who was the first manager Shelton's the first manager fired this year, as I mentioned. Pirates had a 7-game losing streak. They've dropped to 12-26. Ouch. And the team dropped 10 games back of the Cubs, as I mentioned. Um, Shelton had been hired by Charrington in November 2019 as part of a franchise-wide reset by owner Bob Nutting. Uh, Shelton went 306 and 440 in 5+ seasons. Not bad, but really fucking bad. Um, um, of course, Charrington said in a statement, Derek worked incredibly hard and sacrificed a lot over 5+ years. His family became a big part of the Pirates family, and we will miss that. He's an incredibly smart, courteous, and driven baseball leader. I believe he was the right person for the job when he was hired. I also believe that a change is now necessary. I wish Derek and his family all the best in their next chapter. I mean, the thing is, if you think about it, I don't know if the team tuned him out or whatever, but sometimes you just have to wake the team up in some way. Sometimes sometimes it's an assistant coach or a bench coach or whatever, in this case a bench coach, a pitching coach, whatever, who has to be let go just to get the team back on its feet. But they went right for the head. They fired the manager, and and I don't think they, and you got to make sure you're making a right decision. You just don't do it as a rash decision. You got to say, you know what, we can't go on with this anymore. So, um, but the Pirates were ranked 26th in payroll coming into the year. Um, they were hoping to contend behind Rookie of the Year Paul Skeens. Um, though 22-year-old Skeens have been solid, and the starting rotation in general has been steady. Pittsburgh's offense has been horrible this year. Um, they're near the bottom of the NL all season, sitting ahead only to Colorado Rockies in batting average and runs scored. So I guess when the Pittsburgh Pirates come to Philly next weekend, I'm guessing you play the unders all 3 games because they got the starting pitching. They don't have much else. But um, but um, and they're in a difficult stretch as well right now. They got swept by San Diego and St. Louis. Their next 9 games are against Atlanta, the Mets, and the Phillies. Ouch. Now Atlanta's starting to get back on track, like I said they would. Um, but then you got to play the top 2 teams in the NL East. It's good luck with that. So, but the Pirates haven't made the postseason since 2015. It's the second longest active postseason drought in baseball, ahead of only the LA Angels. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2014. Um, so the Pirates gave a former minor league catcher, Shelton, his first major league managing job after he served as coach in various capacities in Tampa Bay, Toronto, Minnesota. See, but the thing is, and I'll ask this, and even if you want to respond after the fact, feel free to do so. Um, is the Pittsburgh Pirates job one of those perennial jobs where you just say, no, I'm not going there? Because it just seems like there isn't enough progression. Um, and I understand it's a small market team, but if you win, the fans are going to start showing up, you know. And you're getting to the point now, because I want to see something here. Uh, yeah, because they were drawing like 8,000 for the St. Louis series. Uh, they drew 10,000 when Skeens was pitching on April 14th. I think that was a very cold weather game. Um, Skeens pitched in St. Louis the other night. Um, he pitched at home to Chicago against Chicago. Pittsburgh only drew 13,000 fans. So the thing is, the fans there want a winner. Plain and simple, but I think they know the BS that's going on there with the ownership there, you know. But you have to realize that maybe, you know, sometimes you might have to spend a little bit more than what you plan in order to win. Um, it just seems like that they've taken a step further back after actually being in contention for a little bit in August last year, and they're on pace to lose well over 100 games. I think right now. I mean, you can have a 5, 6, 7 game winning streak to counteract that 7 game losing streak like that, um, but it just seems like that they don't. It seems like when you think you have something worked out, going according to plan, next thing you know, boom. But be interesting to see what they do in Pittsburgh. Um, the way this reads, it seems like that the new guy, um, Don Kelly, it seems like he's permanent. Now that may not be the case, but at least that's how it reads in this article here. So, um, but sometimes these moves work, sometimes they don't, and just a just a real tough situation in Pittsburgh because you're not spending the money that you want to spend because it's not there. But and you're in a downward spiral right now where you have your star pitcher every night and no one's going to even see him. That's when you know that's when you know that there's something seriously wrong with the team when even your star pitcher can't draw anybody to the stadium. But I guarantee you when the Phillies go out to Pittsburgh, which is uh, June 6th, 7th, and 8th, I guarantee you that's going to be, you might see 25, 30,000 there, and probably 15 to 20,000 will be Phillies fans. But it's just a tough situation there in Pittsburgh, and you would think, I mean, in a way, you hope that they do figure things out because and Mike says we travel well. That's true. Because I think half the crowd in Tampa tonight is Phillies fans. So I mean, they got what about 10,000 in attendance tonight. Uh, well, this doesn't say exactly, but um, last night was 10,046. Um, Actually, both nights were 10,046. I guess that's what their capacity is. But yeah, so and it's also with the Phillies going to Tampa for a couple of days like this. Also, Phillies fans are familiar with the it's they're used to the Tampa Bay Clearwater area because the Phillies have spring training in Clearwater. And I'm watching this replay here. Too close to call. I think he's out, but it's razor tight. But call stands, runners out. Okay, so let's continue on here, and let me see this here. Okay, now if Rafael Devers were smart, he would say, "Get me out of Boston" to his agent. I only say that because first he was a malcontent because they signed um, Bregman. Um, you can tell my brain is fried tonight. I apologize. Um, Alec Bregman, I think, right? Let me get the name right. Alex Bregman. Okay. Just want to get the name right. So now they have an opening at first base right now because um, Tristan um, their first baseman blew out his knee. Where the hell is it? Uh, Tristan Cassis. He was ruled out. He ruptured his left knee tendon and underwent surgery. Now, I don't think the way that this article read, I don't think this was anything that was. Um, I don't think it was anything that was nothing more than, "Hey, Raphael, what do you think about playing first base?" I mean, we all know what was said in the conversation, so it may have been just how I'm presenting it, or it may have been a little more terse, or whatever word you want to have, where he didn't like what was said, and he said he's not moving to first base. Well, I kind of remember him saying, "I'm not going to be a designated hitter" earlier in the year. So Rafael Devers is the Boston Red Sox designated hitter, and he is not interested in another position switch. Now, me personally, um, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to ask. I think that you know, he lost his position, he lost his job at third base because of free agency. You know, once in a while those things happen. But a lot of the guys in Major League Baseball now, they can play 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. Now, the one thing I will say, and you can judge this however you want, I don't care. But when it comes to this, you know, they just asked him. Now, when it came to, let's twist this around to what happened with the Phillies. And the Phillies just took the lead 6-5 in the 10th as the ghost runner scores. Um, Bryce Harper back in 22 blew out his elbow, as we all know. He had the designated hit that year because, if it wasn't for the designated hitter, he would have been done for the year. Plain simple. He benefited the most from the the implementation of the designated hitter in the National League. Plain simple. Then in 2023, in the in the spring training, Reese Hoskins blows out his knee. Now, Bryce Harper says, "Hey, if you need me to play first base, I'll play first base." Well, he got that opportunity, and he's still there to this day. Now, granted, I personally think Harper first base is both a blessing and a curse. But there was also stories that leaked when after the season started, or right around there, or during spring training, somewhere between March and today. He said to he allegedly said to management, I think it was about Pete Alonso coming here. He said, if you sign Alonso, I have no problem going back to the outfield. So the difference there is Bryce Harper is saying, hey, if you need me, we'll do it. Whereas Rafael Devers, he's being a malcontent because his third base job is no longer his. He doesn't want to play the field anymore, especially after you took it away from him. And doesn't want to go back to the field. At least not right now. So it kind of looks like to me, and you can tell me if I'm nuts more than usual, but um, so Red Sox management approached him about the idea of filling in first base. So they know what he can do in terms of they know his potential as a hitter. Now, granted, he had that horrific start. He's gotten his batting average up to 255. So just the fact that he got to 255 after everything, after the start that he had, that's a pretty nice turnaround, if you ask me. However, all he's doing is designated hitting. And when you see everything, it just seems like he's not happy there. His one job was taken from him, and now they want to have him do something else. It seems like to me it was just an idea, and he's going off the deep end because now he's not doing the other job he's expected to do. So Deaver said after homering in the 5-0 win over Boston today, over Texas today, they came to me and talked to me about it. Okay, well, you float ideas all the time. I don't care what it is. If you're, every once in a while you gotta make some decisions that some people will not like. And if he was adamant about getting back on the field, that was probably his way back, at least in the short term. Because if he goes short term to first base, he could probably sell himself a little bit more. Because let me just check one thing here as I'm talking here. So, so I don't think there was much wrong with what they had planned. It was just, hey, what do you think about this? Um, Now he's 6 foot 235. Now what I'm looking for is to see how long he's been in the league. Um, um, okay, so he signed a long term deal. He's got 7 years of service. He's right now in a 10-year, $313.5 million deal right now. So the way I look at this all depends upon, to me, it seems like he does not have a no trade clause, but he probably does. Now, the one thing I would say is if he does not have a no trade clause, you have a little under 3 years to sign him because he's at 7 years of service. And once you get to 10, you have the right to refuse any trade there is in Major League Baseball. I know we said this, and Mike can vouch for this. Um, I kept saying I know I said it with Ryan Howard. I might have said it with Jimmy Rollins as well, because the regression starts at different times for different players. And I said, once you get to 10 years, it's going to be impossible to trade them because they have the right to refuse any trade because they have that right in the collective bargaining agreement. And that's something that's been in Major League Baseball for years and years and years. The 10 and 5 rule, 10 years of Major League service, 5 within the last 5 with the same team. So you're looking at uh, a malcontent. At least that's what it looks like to me. Because I'm not going to play the field now because they took me from third base and they made me the designated hitter. You're lucky you have a job, truthfully. But Deaver said, I know I'm a ball player, but at the same time, they can't expect me to play every single position out there. In spring training, they talked to me and basically told me to put away my glove. I wasn't going to play another position other than designated hitter. Right now, I don't think it would be an appropriate decision by them to ask me to play another position. Um, this is somebody who thinks there is an I in team right now. That's what it tells me. And if I was the general manager and he wants to be a malcontent, I try to trade him. But the problem is, and I have a spammer there. There we go. So it really looks like that you don't have any, because I don't know his whole contract. I didn't look up the whole contract. I just looked up the baseball reference just to see how many years he's been in the league. So this seems like it's going to boil over in the next couple of months, if not sooner. And I think that right now you just have to say, you know what? Are you in or are you out? Because I think that's a courtesy, because it just seemed like it was something where you just say, hey, what do you think about this? And you just say, I don't think it's a good idea. And you leave it at that. But apparently, this is brought to the media. Now, I don't know how this was brought up in the locker room, or whatever, even after the game. I don't know if he mentioned this, or rumors, and they said, "Hey, is this true or not? That you were asked about this, or maybe the GM said something about this." There's some things that are a little bit that aren't mentioned here. So he talked with the chief baseball operator, Craig Breslow, about the prospect of playing first in Cases' absence. Um, so right now they're filling the platoon with Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro. Um, Deaver said through his interpreter, he's played ball, meaning Breslow. I would like to think that he knows that changing positions isn't easy. Yeah, I think he would know that. But would you rather be asked? And, once again, even if you're watching after the fact, feel free to chime in. Just because if you're watching this after the fact, it doesn't necessarily mean that this discussion is closed. I just feel that it's a courtesy to ask him to say, hey, if you want to go back on the field, we have this opening here for you. And sometimes people that play third base migrate over to first base. I think it's just a courtesy more than anything else, and he's taken out of proportion. Because in my opinion, I think the courtesy of it is the right thing to do. Because guess what? You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. If you're Red Sox management asking this, because if you don't ask him, then he's probably saying, "Well, why didn't you ask me about first base?" Instead, they do the right thing and they ask, "Well, what do you think about this?" It just seems like he's being a malcontent right now. He doesn't like they had his third base job taken from him by a guy who signed with the team. But instead, he just has to just shut up and play. Because they gave him an opportunity to go back onto the field. All he had to do was be professional, say no, and move on. But instead, he's spouting off to the media. Um, so Deaver said they put me in this situation. They told me they didn't want me to play any other positions. Well, things change. If you think about it, even if it's something in real life in your personal life and not necessarily sports related, things can change like that. And I think it's easier to ask, hey, what do you think about this? Is changing positions tough? Yeah. But I think that, you know, some people would have been happy to move to first base, especially when you're somebody like him in the position he's in. But instead, he doesn't want to move. He said, I'm not playing the field. I guarantee you, if third base opened up, let's say Alex Bregman blows out his knee, I'm sure he would be grabbing his glove and going back to third base. He should know from being a 7 year major leaguer that things can change like that. And the Phillies win 7-6. Um, so he reiterated, I'm a full time DH. And he offered a suggestion to Breslow, who pitched 12 major league seasons and was a key member of the Boston 2013 World Series winner. He said, Devers said now they should do their jobs essentially and hit the market and look for another player. I'm not sure why they want me to be an in between. Um, a courtesy. That's what it is. Next thing you know, someone in the outfield gets hurt and they want me to play in the outfield. I know the kind of player that I am, and that's where I stand. They know they did you wrong, Rafael Devers. They gave you a chance to go back on the field. It could have been just left like that. Instead, it's brought to the media. So he also stated he was upset that Boston would consider him taking over a position where he has logged 0 innings as a big leaguer. Yeah, but but there's something going on here. There's some bad blood here. Um, Deaver said they told me that I'm a little hard headed, but they already asked me to change positions once. This time, I don't think I can be as flexible. He's trying to get his way out of Boston. That's what he's doing, I think. That's what he's doing. He also said, I don't feel they stayed true to their word. They told me I was going to play this position, DH. Now I'm going back. Now they're going back on that. No, they're not going back on that. It's a courtesy to say, hey, what do you think about this? They know they did you wrong by making you a DH when you signed originally as a third baseman to play there for 10 years. You ask a question, you say no, you move on. Instead, you bring it to the media. At least from how this reads, you brought it to the media. It may have been one of the writers mentioned something, but I don't see an issue with asking a player, hey, what do you think about this? Because obviously, he's not a team player. I hope to God he doesn't end up in Philly. Because it seems like he's becoming a cancer in that Boston locker room. But then again, I'm about what, 300 miles from Boston right now? I could be way wrong. But the fact that he's determining I'm only being a DH now because you took my third base away from me. He sounds like a little kid that didn't get his way. And it's like, hey, you told me I couldn't do this, so man, fuck you. I think it was more of a courtesy than anything else. But whatever. So before we get to our final story, um, just want to let you know, also eligible to be live at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. We will be looking at Aqueduct. They have the Peter Pan, which is the local prep for the Belmont, which is running at Saratoga again this year. Um, they have a field of 9, I believe. Let me double check that here. Um, let's see. There are 10 horses in the race. There's 10 horses in the Peter Pan, which is the prep for the Belmont. Um, you do have 2 horses here that are cross centered with a stakes. I believe that's a stakes race at Monmouth. The Long Branch Stakes. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with those races here. But we'll look at that race. We will look at the Ruffian Stakes, which is for the fillies. There's a couple of additional stakes races here. We'll see if they stay on the turf, as it's supposed to rain tomorrow, at least up in New York. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. And join me uh, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And we'll go through that card here, see if I can give you guys a couple of winners, and you know, looking to uh, looking to have some fun with that, and also look like an actual handicapper. I mean, the one thing they say, they call me the horse racing expert. I don't consider myself an expert, but I consider myself the luckiest. Uh, you know, I don't think I can actually call myself an expert, and chime in after the fact as well. Feel free. I don't necessarily feel like I'm an expert when I'm always learning. You know, just because. Yeah, and the thing is, you don't give yourself nicknames. Like for example, Joe Quills. The Quills part came. It goes all the way back to my high school years with my freshman algebra teacher. Like he had a name for everybody, and he goes, "Come on, Quills! Come on, Quills!" And he made algebra fun, but and he's like, "Come on, Quills! Come on, Quills!" And he's doing that, and you're laughing because he's saying that when he's making learning algebra fun. But if you think about it, um, I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this, but um, there goes the ADD again. So, um, yeah. So, oh, the expert thing. I mean, I don't want to call myself an expert. If Bleacher Brothers wants to call me the expert, okay, so be it. I'll take the title, but you know, I I don't necessarily call myself an expert myself because one, I think someone has to bestow you a nickname or anything like that. But you know, if they want to call me an expert, okay. But I'm not a novice. I know that. I'm somewhere in between. So at least that's just me. So um, the last story I have here, and first of all, this round of the playoffs has been batshit crazy. Um, oh, Boston blew two 20 points lead. Uh, I am very good at what I do, and also knowing Mike is a plus. Well, knowing you's a plus, but you don't see the numbers that I see. So, but anyways, um, the numbers I see with the horse racing stuff, and I got to update that file this weekend. Um, but seriously, the playoffs, the NBA playoffs have been batshit crazy, and Denver's game one, which was Monday night, I believe. Yeah, it was Monday night because I kicked Mike out, and I basically just crashed on the couch because I was tired. And I'm even tired tonight because they're working on the roof. Now, granted, I'm not on the top floor, so I have a little bit of a buffer. Not Michael Buffer, not Bruce Buffer, but I don't have the insanely sounding crap that they're doing up on the roof. I get some residual stuff, but it's not as bad as if I was on the top floor. But today I woke up at 8 o'clock. I plan not being up before 9:30. Hey, I'm up, whatever. So playoffs have been crazy. Monday night, I fell asleep on the couch. I woke up at 4:30, 4:15, something like that, and it was my typical wake up and fall right back to sleep because I said, "Hey, Google, what time is it?" Like I always do, and it said, "Oh, it's 4:20 something a.m." I'm like, I am definitely not waking up because I know if I, other than to semi comatose walk to the bathroom to take a leak or anything like that, you know, if I sit up, I go grab something to eat, grab something to drink, sit at this computer chair, anything like that, I'm going to be awake. Now, granted, and excuse me for doing this, I could do this, sit like this, and then I'll fall asleep like this, which I've done many a time because it's a nice way for me to doze off every once in a while, especially on the weekends or on an off day from work. Um, I woke up, and whoever it was for Denver in game one hit that shot to win the game. I was in a chat on Tuesday. Um, was it Tuesday? I think it was. When was game two? Yeah, I'm really drawing blanks tonight. But how do you really draw a blank? Seriously though. Um, yeah, it was Tuesday night. Cleveland was up 15 or 20 points. I said in chat, I probably should have played it. And somebody liked what I had to say, but I don't know if they're just an Indiana fan or not. I said, I should jump on Indiana money line the way that the first games have been going. So, the first games in the series have gone so far. And don't you know Indiana comes back and they win. So it's been crazy. Knicks have won two games. And by the way, I've jumped on the Knicks bandwagon. No, not rooting for them to win. Um, I think we have a sign from the College of Cardinals, the conclave, that they think the Knicks are going to win. And trust me, the world will probably end like they probably predicted if the Cubs would ever win, which they did, and it didn't. Um, because the new pope did his undergraduate studies at Villanova, and the Knicks are full of Villanova players, I said, screw it. I put money on the Knicks to win the world title. Why not? So um, and I got him at 10-1. So hopefully I made some good investing. But tonight, but last night OKC boat raced Denver, and it looks like Milwaukee is doing that to Golden State. And the reason why I mention that is Steph Curry isn't sure how long it'll take him to recover from his grade 1 left hamstring strain because this is the first time he ever had such an injury. Now, the thing is, if you think about this, I mean, first of all, it's a sign of being 37 years old. But, and I think a grade 1 strain is the least in terms of severity. I think it's grade 1, then grade 2 is worse, and grade 3 is even worse. I think. And this is why I wish I had a doctor watching the stream. And if you are a doctor or a nurse or a Gaylord Fokker, let me know if I'm right. If grade 1s are not that serious and grade 2, grade 3 increase the severity. But whatever it is, I mean, I think I think the fact that he's being truthful about this is something um, something that this is something you'll never see in hockey because if somebody gets hurt, oh, it's an upper body or lower body injury. Oh, he's got a penis injury. You know, he's got an injury right at the equator, which is the waist. But anyways, um, he called the situation a gut punch, um, saying that he had to be careful and can't rush his comeback given the tricky nature of hamstring injuries. And the thing is, he never experienced one, so he doesn't know anything off the. He doesn't know how to react to this. Um, but I'm sure he's seen other players on his teams over the year having some sort of a hamstring issue, whether it's something slight, something slighter than a grade 1, or seen something worse. But I think he's smart enough to know that no two people heal the same. Now, for a bone, it's simple. It's 6 weeks for the most part. Uh, and Mike, who is not a doctor, does not play one on TV either, says according to ESPN this morning, a grade 1 sprain is not as serious as a grade 2. Okay, so that's exactly what I thought. Because I think it's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 in terms of severity. So I was right about something. I would do it the other way, but my shoulder's all fucked up. Um, Curry said, "This is new, and from all that I'm learning about how quickly you can get back, there has to be a healing process." True. I know that firsthand. I thought my calf was healed years ago, and next thing you know, bye bye calf. Um, you can't accelerate it more than what it's telling you. So it'll be one of those after a week, really evaluating every day to understand when it's safe just to even think about playing, let alone how much you can push it. Push it real good. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, sorry. Is it a full moon? Here we go on another tangent here. Full moon is on Monday. Good God save me. So we're getting closer to the full moon. Um, so he's out through at least game four. And he's going to be reevaluated after that. Game five is 8 days after Curry suffered the injury. So that may be a possibility. Then there's a 3 day break before game six, if necessary, which could give Curry a total of 12 days to recover. Game seven will be May 20th. So he has time to heal, but like I said, no two people heal the same. You just got to realize that you're really have to make sure that you're healed to go because muscles and ligaments are so much different from bones because you break a bone, it's 4 to 6 weeks, most likely six, unless you really do some damage to the bone. But something like that, it is what it is. But um, now the Warriors are down right now by 22 in the fourth. Um, well, we'll get to that stat I was going to mention in a second. Um, Curry says he's a little ways away from taking stationary jump shots. So I guess that's the first step here. Um, and he said there were no warning signs before he suffered the injury in the second quarter of game one on Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is with a lot of injuries. You don't sense anything, and the next thing you know, it just goes. I mean, knees, ankles, Achilles, you see it all the time. If you don't feel any pain, then that's something you're going to, you think everything's fine, but, there may be, and I'm talking out my ass with this, so, feel free to comment, especially after the show, if I'm way off on this. I'm sure there was probably some sort of a micro tear there or something that, something of the starts that didn't set off any pain thresholds or anything like that. And something got tweaked or whatever. And it's like, oh shit, I got to go out of the game. So, so he said that I felt great the whole game up to that point. Then I made a little pivot move on defense and felt something. Didn't think it was nothing or anything. I felt like I could just go out, get it released, and be able to come back out. But with soft tissue, stuff like that, it was one of those situations I could have done more damage if I tried to go back out. So obviously, tough break, and hopefully I'll be back soon. Now, I kind of find it refreshing that they mention this. Like I said, because hockey, they'll just say, "Oh, upper body injury." Well, we know you did. Like Anthony Stolars of the Toronto Maple Leafs. We know he got hit in the head in game one. And I'm sure they would say, oh, it's an upper body injury. Well, we know it was a concussion probably because he was puking all over the bench when he got taken out of the game and then was taken to hospital because it was a head injury. But now the Warriors have played 12 playoff games without Curry before tonight, and they've gone 9-3. It's going to be 9-4 after tonight, most likely. And I say most likely because the way that these games have, the way these games have ended up, crazy stuff. So, um, it's the first. It'll be the first game without Curry in the playoffs since Game One of the 2018 Western Conference Semifinals against the Pelicans, when he was out with a knee injury. Um, The Warriors had Draymond Green and Klay Thompson for all 12 of those previous games, and Kevin Durant for 6. Um, he said, "Sitting out now is." Curry said, "Sitting out now is so much harder and more emotional than when he was younger. He isn't sure how many more opportunities he will have for a deep playoff run. That is why Curry told Green the night that the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler in early February that this is it. This is our last ride." Um, in talking about their championship window this postseason and the next 2 years with Curry, Green, and Butler under contract. And, the window is probably closing on them even if they make it to the Western Conference final. Because, Curry's 37. Um, Curry's 37. Draymond Green is 35. Jimmy Butler's 35. So you're talking about three really old players and a bunch of guys where you just say, out of the clear blue.
Who the fuck is that guy?
So, but but Curry said he's not rushing because there has to be a natural healing process that happens, and the body will tell you, even if you're able to do normal basketball movements, pain free and stuff. So yeah, that's a tough blow for Golden State, and for the most part, they've been drafting late in the first round. And every once in a while you get a break or two where like the one year they had a couple of injuries that were season long, Klay Thompson, a couple others. Um, they finished in the lottery, and other than that one year, they really hadn't had any chance to win the lottery or had a chance to even one be in the lottery and two have a top pick because if you're later in the first round, it shows that you made the playoffs, you went deep in the playoffs, and you probably won. But I really think that they have a opportunity. They know that their window is closing, even with those three there, because who knows how long Draymond's going to play? Who knows how long Jimmy's going to play? Who knows how long Curry's going to play? Because especially if you think about it, you would think the injuries are going to continue to come for Steph Curry because of the fact, if you think about it, he's 37 years old, and like they always say, Father Time is undefeated, and he's going to potentially wreak havoc on specifically those three players, even though you don't want that. Even if you're a pure basketball fan, even if you don't have a team, but if you are going to, you know, and if you're a fan of Golden State, I think you need to realize that that window is closing and closing quickly, and um, you have to you have to also you're going to have to get yourself out of salary cap hell because with the way that they're doing the salary cap now, you have all this new terminology and stuff where I'm just like, I don't even want to learn it. I mean, after a rough day at work, you hear that so and so has gone to this threshold of the salary cap. It's like I really don't want to learn this, but um, but yeah, it's all it's all, but I think Mike would acknowledge this. I'm sure if I had other people that were more knowledgeable of the NBA than I am, even somebody who's not as knowledgeable as me can say that window is closing and closing very fast on the Golden State Warriors. and they may be looking at the last year or two of those three, whether it's individuals or trio. But we'll see what happens there. So that is going to be it here for this Thursday night. Um, when in doubt, Mike says I'm correct. But anyway, so that is going to be it for this show tonight. Um, Also eligible will be live Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Tune in. It may end up being on my Twitch because I am switching over from EV to another program. So I might have to tweak things. Um, I may not even have time to do it tomorrow. So it may just be my Twitch, my YouTube before we get everything squared away. So just to let you guys know, if you don't see it on the Bleacher Brothers family of channels or platforms, it isn't that I got kicked off of Bleacher Brothers or anything like that. It's just that, you know, things have to be set up. AJ's got to go in there, that sort of thing. So, um, but yeah, so that will be live on Saturday. Follow me at Joe Quills everywhere, and we'll have some fun here, and hopefully we'll get some winners on Saturday. And if you don't see me on Saturday, we'll be back on Monday. Edmonton versus Golden Knights. Yeah, that. Where's my remote here? Shit. Oh well. Actually, what I can do, because I am streaming here, I'm streaming the games on here. Since Brendan mentioned Edmonton and Vegas. Um, and Vegas did score there. I don't know if that was a recent replay or just a recap replay or anything like that, but all right, let's go, ref. Let's crack the whip here. Let's get this game going here. Um, okay, start of the second period. It's 1-0 BGK. Okay, so we got our update there. So, and the Phillies won tonight 7-6. They sweep the Tampa Bay Rays. Um, they've won 7 of their last 9, if I'm not correct. If I'm correct, but they're still behind the Mets. Um, Mets got the Phillies number right now. That's what I'll say right now. But they got to come here in a couple of weeks. So anyways, do appreciate everybody coming in to watch tonight. We will do it live. Um, we'll do it live again Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if not Saturday at 10 a.m., we'll do it live on Monday at 9 o'clock. Mike will be in studio, and we'll have some fun with this. So that is it for now. Do appreciate each and every one of you, and let me get back to my tradition I had just started here, and let's queue up Harry here. Harry Callis, that is. I think it's on here. No, but I can add it here. Do I have it on here? I don't have it on here? Hold on, I gotta add this here real quick. Upload new. Let's see here. There it is. There we go. I can close it out with Harry now. So that is it for now. Do appreciate everybody, and we'll do it live on Saturday. And if you're not here on Saturday, we'll be here Monday night. So have a great night, have a great weekend, and I will see you either Saturday or Monday. Have a great night, everybody. Might have been a hook.
When you click your hand off the ground, there's a lot to be learned. So look around.